Oh, I forgot to mention, there are at least 2 Sikh Gurudwara temples within Salt Lake. So you have a very unique opportunity to experience all these things. Any questions are welcome. Yes,
I very much enjoyed this. Thank you for showing it tonight. Is there a general idea of a social life in the afterlife in any of the dharmic traditions? Or is it not so much the case that one would think of living in a continual society with the people one has here in the next life?
Okay. Very good question. The question was, is there a social component to afterlife in any of these dharmic systems of faith we were exposed to here? As far as Hinduism is concerned, after death, there is a situation where you go to the world of the Pitras or ancestors till you're decided whether you get a rebirth or you become one with the universal spirit. The universal spirit is almost like a science fiction concept. It's all in all, is one, and it's everything and it's nothing. So there is no individual identity or scope for, as far as I understand, this is my view of Vedanta as I see it, you become one with the eternal or the omnipresent, omnipotent spirit. So I never saw an individual component. But that doesn't mean there is a social element there. We often listen to Hindu mythology or legend where you say, oh, people go to Swarga, to the world of the gods, where Indra is the ruler. Indra is the male divinity who is the leader of all the divinities, or the gods, who lives in this world called the Swarga, where there are beautiful dancing maidens and where every pleasure on earth is available without question. So obviously there is a social living structure there. But if we come from the point of view of many of the Abrahamic religions where, for example, in Christianity, where you go, the loved ones you will meet and you will stay with them eternally, that concept doesn't exist in that form in Hindu faith at least. And while in the Muslim faith there is paradise, but I did not, as far as my reading goes, I cannot be a true answer of the Muslim faith. It has a partial social component, but yet again it's the world of Allah where you go to. The concept where you will see your mother, father, grandparents and children and will be happily ever after with them, in that sense doesn't exist. Because Hinduism at least says the ultimate aim is to be liberated from any kind of attachment, and social life is an attachment. Does that kind of answer the question?
That's a good answer. If I could really follow up quickly, how do you distinguish the Dharmic or Hindu aspect of unattachment with the Buddhist concept of unattachment? Is there any?
Very much. It's very related, and you need to learn a little bit of the history of India. The Hindu faith is very, very ancient. Depending on which archaeology or text you read, it's either 5,000, 10,000, 2,000, 3,000. Definitely more than 3,000 BC. The Buddhist faith came a few centuries or a few hundred years before the advent of Christ. And one of the things that Hinduism is like, they say, every river that flows into the ocean becomes the ocean. Hinduism is like that. Every faith that comes with it has a little Hindu flavor and it imbibes itself as part of it. There are 2 very important concepts which we think of as being inherently Hindu, which actually came from 2 different faiths, that is the Buddhist faith and the Jain faith. The concept of dharma, that means do unto others what is right and follow the righteous path. Though it existed in Hinduism, it became more concretized after the advent of the Buddha and his teachings. So the concept of dharma, you will reap the rewards of what you do, therefore do good. I'm putting it in a very, very small nutshell. That became more concrete and more, vocalized after the advent of the Buddha, and it became part and parcel of Hinduism. The Vedantic texts talk about it in different ways, but not in very absolute terms like the Buddhist teachings do. The other very, very important facet that came into Hinduism after the advent of the Jain faith is non-violence. Ancient Hinduism, pre-Jain Hinduism, is very violent because a lot of Hindu faith at that time revolved around sacrificial fire oblations, into which, yes, animals were offered, cattle was offered, all kinds of oblations through the fire god went to the divinities who were nature divinities that protected the land without causing storms or fires or floods. The advent of Jainism said, do not be violent. No living creature should be killed for your pleasure or for your salvation. So now we still do fire sacrifices, but we don't throw a goat or a cow or a sheep into it. Instead, we make little mounds of rice or dry fruits or flowers and herbal things. So if you go talk to a Hindu these days, they don't even remember this ancient time where animal sacrifice was part of Hinduism. It's now abhorrent for a Hindu to think that you would sacrifice an animal, because it's become that there have been more than 2,000 years of this history wherein this Jain concept of non-violence, which is the dharma of non-violence, became part and parcel of Hinduism. The concept of vegetarianism, preservation of life of any form, be it human, animal, creature, or even plants, becomes part of Hinduism, which you think is part and parcel of Hinduism, but it comes from this other faith which found roots in this ancient land.
Thank you.